Welcome to Bite Time, a brand new exclusive series to the Totally Awesome Fishing Show. You're going to join me, Mike Pullen, on my journey with two of the UK's most totally awesome carp anglers. We've got Tommy Flower, who's a regular on our show, and Andy Phillips. And what we're going to do is go around the country to different venues, easy venues, medium difficulty, and real tough venues, using loads of different rigs, different methods, different times of the year. It's exclusive to the Totally Awesome Fishing Show. This is Bite Time.
Into our first night. We got here sort of 5 o'clock yesterday morning, a little bit later. Had a walk round, found some fish and set up on them. But as soon as they knew they was being angled for, it didn't take long for them to sort of disappear up the other end of the lake. Had a little lead around, found some nice little spots. Everyone sort of said it's been fishing hard at the moment and walking around talking to a few people, so I didn't want to go down loads of bait. Just put 3 solid bags out, keep the bait down, keep the disturbance to a minimum. Got some boilie crumb, some skretting pellet in the 2.3 and 4.5, that's the coarse pellet. A little bit of liquid, just to try and keep like enough attraction in the area but without overdoing the feed. This took a while, but we finally got one. It's not the biggest in the lake. It is a pretty little fish. Hopefully it's the first of many. They're slipping back and hopefully a few more to come. Right, I think we're going to have a move. Andy's just been up, he's a swim down from us, and sort of yesterday morning there's a lot of fish up this end, but there's more angling pressure up here than there was yesterday, and they just haven't moved in like they did. We nicked the one during the night, that little mirror, it's probably about £10 if that. Lovely little fish, but there's stacks of fish showing down the opposite end. I think there's about 4 swims, sort of 3 down there, so I think we're going to grab some gear and head down there. Certainly be rude not to, I think. Well, we're down to Sandhurst, booked on for a 60-hour session. Started on the Friday morning, which was yesterday. So we had a quick walk around the lake at first light, try and sort of find where the fish are, and also try and find a free swim. There's a couple of lovely looking swims down the opposite end, and there's plenty of fish. As you said, with the swim you was in, there was all over.
Yeah, we saw some fish head and shoulder in that swim. Also in front of the swim, Tom fished. A lot of fizzing going on. It was looking very encouraging. So, as Tom was saying, it was a couple of swims that were definitely worth fishing at the time.
It's just as usual, when you do move on them, they tend to go up the other end and sit in front of another swim that's open.
Yeah, but we was watching them, keeping an eye on them, and you had a bit of activity in the night, didn't you?
Yeah, nicked probably the littlest one in the lake, about £10. Lovely looking little mirror. Got me out of my bed about 2 o'clock this morning in the rain. But I woke up, nothing else was really happening, and there's stacks of fish down the opposite end. So again, up sticks and round we comes, which is where we are now. We moved in, there's been plenty of fish showing. We don't think we've spooked them out, they're sort of still showing quite regularly. And it's looking pretty good for a fish or two.
Yeah, the conditions couldn't be sort of more perfect really. We've got the slight steady breeze sort of blowing straight into the 2 swims we're now occupying. And the activity's slowed down a little bit, but we've sort of gone for a sort of stealthy approach. We've not sort of made 3 casts each, and set the 6 rods between us. So we're quite happy to sort of sit and fish like that at the moment.
It's just watching everyone else. Everyone's like putting bait out and fresh in the water to a foam. So we thought if we can get in, the fish are here, they obviously want to be here. If we can sort of get in, put the rods out without too much disturbance, and hopefully they stay put and decide to have a little munch. So it's looking promising. We've had a few liners and sort of fish showing in the area, so I think it's only a matter of time really.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think, well, I'm well confident, and I know you are as well.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
It was definitely worth. Took us sort of hour and a half, maybe 2 hours tops to do the move. It's always hard to sort of, once you're sort of camped in a swim, to sort of want to move, but it was too many fish to see down here in front of these 2 swims, and we had to move, we had to do it.
It's the same old guys, and you can't catch them if they're not there, so
no.
Sort of moving up on them, so I think it was the only way to really go. Well, as I was saying, once you come in here, try and keep it down to like disturbance to a minimum really. All I've done is just gone the solid bag approach, cast at showing fish and at fizzers, and just made 3 casts on fish, little tiny short hook links and a bag full of attractors really.
Yeah, it's a pretty good method. I've done a very similar thing on 2 of my rods. One of the bags I've filled with a mixture of pellets, crumb, etc, but I've also incorporated some liquids in that bag. And on the 3rd rod, because of the weed I'm casting sort of showing fish, I've put a long boom, which is probably about 18 inches on that, with a small pop-up on the end of it. And the thinking behind that is, if I'm casting out and I do land in thick weed, I've got quite a good chance of that presenting itself on top of the weed. So fingers crossed, that's the 3 options I've gone for. And like Tom was saying, it's because we don't want to make numerous casts, we just want to make that 1 cast, get onto that spot and know that you're fishing. And bags for 1 is the ideal presentation on a weedy water like we're fishing during the weekend.
So we've both really gone for a rather stealthy approach, sort of kept everything to a minimum. We've got another night ahead of us and a full day tomorrow, so I'm pretty hopeful that something will slip up to one of the 6 rods, I think.
Yeah, it's very encouraging to say conditions, the fish are here, conditions are right. Yeah, it's sort of waiting for the time now, and hopefully something will materialise.
Yeah, well I've got to get another rod back out, but before I do that, let's have a look at the rigs. Well, before I get this next rod out, I'm just going to quickly run through what I'm doing and my approach really. So first of all, I'll start with the rig. Got length for leg core, which keeps everything nice and pinned down to the bottom. Inline lead, so I'm using the solid bags. Little tiny short rig, little tiny bait, big hook as usual, and all I'm going to do with that is create my solid bag. I'll show you the mix quickly. Got a bit of everything in there. Well, as you can see, there's quite a lot going on in this bag mix. There's skretting coarse pellets. We've got the 4mm and the tiny little 2mm, but they break down lovely. They've got real low oil content, hardly anything, and it goes with all the other liquids and different powders and additives that's in there. We've got the squid mill that I don't go anywhere without. It's caught me a number of fish lately. Adding to that, we've got the fish soluble liquid. Now these two go together fantastic. I've used these just on their own on single hook baits and caught plenty of fish. As well as that, we've got some XL KSC liquid. It's the same as the boilies I'm using, so it just again goes with that flavour. And with the bag mix as well, which is a fine powder. I think sort of, as well as sort of the boilie ingredients, a bit of chilli. It's nice and spicy and definitely fishy. It absolutely stinks. And then we've got the green lip mussel from Skretting. Don't want to go too mad on this, just a nice little helping, and it just gives it a lovely new attractor. So there's plenty of happening, some crumb boilie in there, and all it is, you just want a nice little pile of attractors. You don't want loads of feed out there. Everyone's absolutely killing it at the moment with spomming and putting boilies out, so I just want to fish nice and stealthy, little bag, bit of attractor, get them come in, have one little mouthful, and hopefully the hook flies in with it. Let's tie a bag up and get it out there. It's got a fairly small solid PVA bag. What I'm going to do is get a little bit of the mixture, a little bit in to layer the base. Squash it all down. In goes the rig, making sure that the hair's sitting off of the hooks so they don't get tangled. Just pinch it like that, and then just continue to fill. Get another little layer in, poke it all down so it's nice and compact. I even use the lead to just tamp it all down. And then all I'm going to do is the old lick, stick and twist method. Pull the bag up to the insert, trying to drop it. Spin it round and round. A little bit of saliva, and that holds tight. Just to add with the aerodynamics, because there's quite a bit of crosswind going across the swim and fishing about 60-70 yards. So again, just squeeze it in, pull down the tag end, a little bit of saliva again. That's a fairly neat little solid bag. Can punch that rather quite far. All that's going to do is go in where it lands on weed or silt. It's going to open up and create a nice little parcel of food. And hopefully the carp won't be able to resist. The good thing with this solid bag and the mix I'm using is it's not giving them loads of food to eat, but it's got loads of attractors. They're going to be really turned on by that, and they're going to come in, hopefully have a little go at it, and when they suck it up, all that's going to go is the bait's going to fly in with it, and you've just got a perfect little parcel of food. You ain't overdone it. It's nice and stealthy, and I think the way it's looking at the moment, I think we're fishing for a bite at a time, so I ain't worrying about getting a big head of fish trying to compete, because a lot of people are doing that and not succeeding at the moment. So I think one bite at a time, nice neat solid bag, cast that's showing fish, and it should work perfectly. It gives you an almost perfect presentation. When that all breaks down, your rig's just going to be sitting just in amongst it, everything's going to be hidden. It just gives it a fairly good presentation. Put the solid bag out. All I'm trying to do is just get the line sunk quickly. I'm going to leave it fairly slack. I don't want tight lines running out to alert them to our presence. So and keep everything stealthed up. So 1 cast, 1 rig in, that's it. And then 2 more casts, 2 more rigs in. I don't want to be leading about and sort of spooking the area. I know the fish are here, and solid bags. Even if you land in a bit of weed, you should be fairly safe. So let's see what happens. Right, the 3rd rod's going out. I've got 1 just down the edge. See if a real good fish sort of crash out. So obviously that has to have a bag. Got 1 out on the fizzing that was out just to the left in front, and this one's going just to the right of that. And again on the fizzing. I haven't marked the swim. I'm not too sure what is out there, but with the fish out there, I don't really want to risk spooking them. So 3 solids, you should be fairly safe with them. So hopefully we get this one out and see if we can nick a fish or 2.
This is the rig I'm actually using on one of my rods here at Sandhurst Lakes. The reason being is because there's quite a lot of weed out in the lake. There are clear areas, but this particular rod I'm waiting to see showing fish, and I'm casting this at the fish once they've shown. Now it could be over weed or it could be in the clear area, but this is the reason why I'm using this. It's a drop-off lead system which is clipped on via a small piece of wire there. These are the MCF dumper lead systems, which I found very effective, and the lead goes on like that. If once you get the take and the fish pulls forward, the lead is released, and then you've not got that lead bouncing about that's likely to get snagged up in the weed, and you've got a little bit more chance of landing the fish. Because the weed out there and the fish could be showing over the weed, this is why I've decided to use a long mono filament boom from the lead system through to a small ring swivel, which gives me a certain amount of movement on this end. Tied the hook end of it is what's called a multi-rig, with the bait on a D-rig at the back, which moves freely up and down that D-rig that's been produced in making that rig. The hook's a size 6 hook, quite a strong gauge wire, and I've also stripped a piece of this coated hook length material. I've stripped the coating off to allow flexibility between that swivel and the start of the multi-rig there, similar to a chod rig. And the reason I've got this, I can cast this to that showing fish, which could be in weed like I said before. The lead will penetrate straight through the weed, and I've allowed that length there. The weed I'm finding in the edge and certain places in the lake is maybe 18 inches long, so I've incorporated a sort of a 2-foot boom, which will allow the lead to penetrate through the weed bed, and the balanced pop-up will then float down and sit quite well, very well on top of the weed without masking the hook. And the other benefit, if I was to land on smooth clear ground, then most people I've noticed on here are using sort of conventional rigs, maybe 8, 10, 12 inches long. So again, if I'm fishing in the clear, it's something different to what everybody else is using. The lead's 2-ounce lead. I'm fishing probably approximately 60 to 70 yards, and with the 12-pound mono reel line that I'm using and 2.5-pound rods, test curve rods, that's more than enough weight of lead to get me out to the distance that I require. Well, I've found another spot out there this afternoon, cast the lead out, found quite a clear area that runs up onto some gravel, and then just this side of it the weed, quite a big weed bed begins. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to leave my other 2 rods on bags for tonight, but I'm going to spawn some a mixture of pellet, corn, well the pellets different sizes, corn and some of the boilies we're using. I'm going to put a sort of a small bed of bait out there, not going to go mad, and then I'm going to stick a multi-rig out on that one. And we've noticed a fella opposite who put quite a bit of bait out earlier on, and a little while ago he had a run. He was a bit unlucky, he lost the fish, but a couple of people on here have been doing the same thing and having some results, so I'm going to give that a little go for tonight, and fingers crossed it'll bring a result. There's the spawn. I'm using there's 3 versions, small, midi or large. I've gone for the midi because I don't want to put too much bait out too quick. To use it, there's a button on the front which is the release and catch mechanism. Press the button, it springs open. When you're filling it, make sure you don't get anything in the mechanism because that needs to be free moving for the spawn to work correctly. And this is the correct way to fill it and the correct way to have it up. If you have the logo on the top, because you've got the shield at the front, it allows you to put slightly more bait in this side than if it was that side. This is the mixture I've put together and I'm going to be spamming out. It's a mixture of like the boilies we're using. From XL baits, 2 sizes of pellets, and the pellets are from Screttings. Sweet corn, tin of sweet corn in there, and I've also put some liquids in there that have soaked in now, so they shouldn't wash off too quick, and give me some attraction out, liquid attraction, as well as some food out there for the fish. And there it is, ready to go.
Right, sort of fish have stopped showing in the swim now, so while there's no sort of fish present, I'm going to sort of just have a little lead around and just see what they was showing over, whether there's any sort of little holes in the weed or anything like that. It's only a light little lead, normal mono, and just that's it. That's all I want to feel, just the little gaps in between the weeds. It's quite weedy out there. I brought a couple of my rods in and they're weeded up, so I just want to find the sort of cleaner areas, still in the same area that I was showing earlier, and just see if there's any better spots I can sort of present a bait on. Let's have a look.
Well, we're really getting to that witching hour now, 4:45 in the evening, and could it be bite time? Who knows? We've not had a fish yet, but we've seen lots of fish rolling, coming out of the water. We've seen lots of fizzing. There's certainly activity in the area that Tommy and Andy are fishing. Andy's now spawned out a load more bait, so hopefully he'll get something from that. There is a big weed bed going out there, which can be quite difficult, but I like the way that Andy's rig, the lead sinks down through the weed and the actual pop-up just sits above the weed, which I thought was really cool. I've not really seen that before. Tommy's still on the bags. He's had a few sort of one beeps on the buzzers, but could have been a wind. The wind's actually picked up. Lovely evening though, but like I say, it's a tough fishery. This is sort of our medium difficulty fishery that we're doing here at Sandhurst. Stunning lake though, really nice. A few more anglers have joined on the lake as well, so it's getting really pressured now. we are getting on the witching hour. We're doing one more night session here. The rumour is it that these fish have been biting at night around 10 o'clock. Despite Andy and Tommy's best efforts, unfortunately they weren't able to get fish in the night. However, this is definitely a venue we'll come back to, as we saw plenty of carp activity during the day. We know the sort of quality of fish that can come out here, so I'm sure we'll be back soon. So we packed up our stuff and the following week headed out to another venue. Well, I'm down here in deepest Essex. I'm at a place called Boreham, and the lake we're fishing today is called the Quarry. I believe it used to be a syndicate for about 20 years, and it's only just recently turned to a day ticket water. 22-acre gravel pit. There's, I think there's about 150 odd carp in here. They grow up to 40 pounds, so there is some chunkers in here, and they average probably mid-doubles, 20s, lots of 20s, lots of 30s. So slight change of tactics for Tommy and Andy, I think, compared to when they were fishing at Sandhurst, which was a really tough session. But weather's looking okay. Conditions are on form, as Tommy's been telling me. Bit windy though, but hopefully there's a big low pressure coming in tonight from a spin-off of a hurricane. We're sort of back end of October, coming into late October now, so we're well into autumn now, but hopefully we can get some stunners for you on the bank. Stay tuned for more bite time.
Well, you join us here at the Quarry down in Essex. We're on the back end of our session from Sandhurst last week, so things didn't really go to plan and the fish didn't read the script. Managed one sort of small one on the first night, but I moved on fish a few times. I just weren't really playing ball, so we sort of struggled a bit, didn't we?
Yeah, it's a good session. Still learnt a few things to bring away with us to if we was to go back there again. A few other things to try. But yeah, we're a new session now, like Tom said, down at the Quarry in Essex. Yeah, it's had a bit of a walk round this morning. Managed to see a couple of fish. It's quite busy today, isn't it?
Yeah, I think being a Monday morning, I would have expected it to be a little bit more quiet than this, but I think everyone sort of has the same idea these days. Yeah,
the weather's good. The window of weather we've got, low pressures coming in, strong winds, southwest. So yeah, it's hardly surprising, like
it's
I say.
Looking pretty spot on for a fish or two.
Yeah, definitely. Like, we had the 2 sightings in this swim as well, haven't we? Since
yeah, definitely. We've had the sort of a lap, 2 laps really around the lake this morning.
Yeah.
And there's a few swims dotted around, but they didn't really offer too much. So I think what we're going to do today is double up in this swim. It's called In Between the Islands. So, which name gives it away. We've got a big island to our left and a slightly smaller one to the right, with a lovely channel that runs through the middle, and you've got a channel up the side and a nice expanse of open water to the right.
Yeah, it's giving us, we've got plenty of scope here, and there's plenty of room for the 2 of us, and there with the 6 rods.
Yeah, definitely. I think sort of way we're going to aim to go is put a main big bed of bait out in the channel that we found a lovely little clear spot. I think we're going to fish a rod each on that. And
yeah, we've been sort of found out a little bit of information about the place, and this sort of the fish in here are quite sizable, and they do like their their food. So yeah, it's like the better bait on that centre spot there, and like Tom says, 2 rods on it, and then we'll have a little look round the islands, and there's a set of pads down to our right here and a channel down to the left that we can sort of keep an eye on, or maybe put a bait in and bit of bait in and keep an eye on it.
Yeah, all looks pretty carpy, to be honest, so
Yeah.
I think we're going to give them some grub and hopefully see if they get their heads down. Well, we got here early doors this morning. We sort of found our swim. We know it's a fairly weedy lake, so what we wanted to do first was have a good lead around and try and find some spots. So all I'm using is just my marker rod, real loaded with braid. It gives you sort of, there's no stretch in that, so every little tap and bit of gravel, you get every good bit of feedback on it. It's a normal 3-ounce lead. Sort of put it out and see what's out there. Well, me and Andy have had a lead around the swim, so it was fairly weedy out there, but we managed to find a lovely little clear gravelly sort of spot in amongst the weed. So all I've done is just clipped up the reel to my spot. I'm just going to double check it and then we'll mark it out on the sticks. Lovely and clear. With the spots found, we're going to mark up now, so all I've got is 2 bank sticks in the ground. We know the distance apart. All you want to do is just wrap your lead round one, and then I'll show you how to do the rest. All you want to do now is just count them out until you hit the clip. 1, 2, 3. You can see we've hit the clip now. So that gives us our exact mark. We've got 21.5 wraps. So every time we need to if we have a fish or anything like that, or want to redo the rods, back on the sticks, 21.5, and you know you're fishing exactly on your marker. Another tip with that, although you've got your distance, is to sort of pick a sort of horizon marker. So even at night you'll be able to sort of know that's where you're aiming, you're clipped up at the right distance, and you should be fishing the same time.
Right, another really big advantage I think we've got here, which is going to enable us to keep an eye on the water close to the islands and the bushes, is someone's had the forethought to put some footrests up this tree, which has turned it into the ideal climbing tree. So I'm going to ship my way up there now, and I'm going to have a little scan about on the water, see if I can see anything fishy going on out there. The vantage point this has given me is absolutely superb. I've seen near enough every part of the swim that Tom and I are going to be fishing. So once we've baited up, we can actually see whether there's any disturbance, coloured water, etc, fizzing, that's likely to come up from the spots, and hopefully sort of stand by the rods anticipating a pickup.
With the spots found, we're all marked up, all clipped up, ready to go. All we've got to do now, get the spoms working. So, we'll get a nice mix of pellet here. We've got the 2mm coarse pellets, 4mm coarse pellets, got 8mm elite pellet, a little bit of corn in there as well. All I've done is I've prepared this one last night. It's got a nice soaking of the fish soluble liquid, which is really sticky and stinky. But as you can see, the pellets have soaked it up really well, and all they do, they break down, all releasing different attractors into the swim. The oils are going to release from the pellet, which will then seep into the lake bed, which keeps smell in the area and hopefully keeps the fish visiting. On top of that, I'm going to be putting some boilies out. These are the XL KSC boilies. The KSC stands for krill, squid and crab. and they absolutely stink, but they look spot on.
Smell-o-vision would be good, wouldn't it?
Oh, it would now. What you got in that bucket?
Yeah, what we've got here is a basic pigeon mix. Picked that up, soaked it for 24 hours, and that's been cooked for another 4. And that's got a combination of sort of small maize, peas, and some maples and some smaller other smaller seeds in there. We've heard that they do like a bit of bait, and with this combination we've got here, we've got a lot of little bits and pieces going on to, you know, for them to pick about on, and hopefully keep them busy, like Tom said. So, and they're going to be spommed out by the pair of us in a minute on the spot we've just found out there with the lead.
I think we're going to fish one either side of the spot, aren't we?
Yeah, a rod each on that, and then we can keep working that during the session, or we're going to put a bit out to start with, and if we get some activity then we can top up as we go along.
To the end, it's just beginning. Life is getting lighter while the days are getting brighter, yeah. And if it's good, I won't even worry anymore. Took all my cares, still can kick them all out the door. Go on and try, come and tell me what you're waiting for. Move and keep them going till your life is overflowing, yeah. I do a dance of victory, cause now I'm living good. No, I'm not living like I used to be. Now talk about things, talk about my mind. Now I'm free from the worries that I left behind. I gotta jump for joy and shout aloud and make a sound. Oh, the world can stop me now, no. And all the music I will ride on the beat. Play my guitar while I'm stomping my feet, yeah. I gotta celebrate life and get excited about good times and good living. Come on, shout it out, hey! Take it up, take it over, take it out of control. Today I'm freeing my soul and now you got me singing, oh, hey.
Right, got the first rod out on the money spot. So, getting a few liners, as you can hear the rod bleeping in the background. I'm hoping that one's going to go. So I don't want to put any more rods out there at the moment. What I'm going to do is a nice solid bag, a lovely little silty spot just off the snaggy sort of bush over off the island. So I've had a lead around. Bit of an awkward cast this one because you've got the overhangs of the tree, so donned the waders and on the way there just past the tree and then flick it in, hopefully on the money. Well, rod's in position, the cast went spot on, which is what we like to see. I had to sink the tips on both rods now, just so the wind's picked up and you're just getting false sort of readings all the time, the wind's hacking through and picking the line up. 2 rods on the money, I'm fairly confident. I've got the middle rod to sort out now, which is going just off the island on some gravel that I found. Hopefully that's 3 rods rocking.
Okay, this is rig number 2 going to go out, where I see a fish this morning. Using it's a KD rig, but it's like a stiff with I've got a hinge there, which is creating the angles here like a bent hook effect, but obviously once the fish is hooked that's going to straighten out, it's all no problem. But because we've got a little bit of weed and debris over by the island, I'm going to put a bit of pop-up foam over the hook. And there's like 2 purposes for that. One, that it stops any debris from getting masked on the hook when it goes down on the lake bed. But the other benefit is on casting out, the lead hits the bottom first. The pop-up foam will keep the hook length raised above that and out of the way until the foam dissolves. And then the hook bait, once that dissolves, then the hook bait will parachute down and away from the lead, and then you're fishing. So that one's going to go out now. Got a bit of a crosswind to contend with, so I've got a slightly heavier lead on, and hopefully first cast we'll get it out there and set, and then I'll use a throwing stick to put some bait around that.
Well, it's bite time. Just put my middle rod out and it's been out there all of about 10 seconds. It's absolutely melted off. And it feels like quite a good fish.
It's a nice bend, mate.
Yeah, it feels good. Trying to get up to my left. It's just on a little gravel spot that I found just off the island. The faithful trusty multi-rig again with a little KSC pop up. I'm just going to step down into the water.
That's the little slap.
in the net.
No, I didn't think it was. Right.
35 and a half.
It's a beast, mate.
Yeah.
That is an absolute beast. That's bite time, boys.
That is seriously bite time.
That's quality. That's a peach of a fish and all, isn't it?
I'm
Beauty.
absolutely over the moon with that.
Right, iPhones at the rear.
Yeah. I am buzzing.
I'm not
What a
surprised.
fish. No venue. And what a way to start the session.
How long was that rod out there?
It weren't even in there for a minute, I wouldn't have said. I literally just put it out, picked my other rod up to cast, and off it went.
Wow.
Something else, and what a fish. A real history venue. Got some absolute peaches in here, and this is one of them. And away it goes. Get in!
That's totally awesome, mate.
That is, mate.
Well, we're getting towards evening time now. It's just about to get dark, 5 o'clock. Tommy had that absolutely stunning 35 pound 8 ounce mirror. What an incredible fish. He's absolutely made up with that. And do you know what? He caught it about 30 yards out, 20 yards out, if that. Right down the island shelf. Really, really good fishing. Top fish. Really was bite time for that one. We're gonna have a little chat with Tommy and Andy now and just see what their plans are for the evening. And hopefully we might get 1 or 2 more fish for you guys.
Well, first fish of the session, and it's always nice to get your first one from a new venue.
Absolute cracking fish as well, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, sort of. Most people, you can't turn up to a venue, you might go through the stockies first and things like that. Not this time. 35.5 pound mirror, and it was a cracking fish.
Yeah, you could have quite easily put a saddle on that one's back, couldn't you?
Oh yeah, that was seriously wide. And I was sort of panicky when we had it on. It sort of waded me up. Went out in the waders and was just drawing back the big massive ball of wade, and you're in 2 minds, is it there, is it not? I slipped the net under all the wade, stuck my hand under, just felt it, you just feel the fish under, and it felt like a lump. It got bundled in and sort of panic was over and sort of happiness set in.
It was in the confines of the net where it deserved to be.
Yeah, so it was, over the moon with that one, and fairly quick in the session as well. We've still got a lot of time left.
Well, we're searching about. It's quite weedy out in the swim we've got here, and yeah, I mean, you found a sort of bit of gravel out there sort of earlier on, and yeah, your cast was like sort of straight on the spot.
Yeah,
a nice
sort of
clean donk, wasn't it?
Yeah, seriously, cracked down as though you was casting onto granite. It's just one of them, and you just know that's going to do a bite.
Yeah.
And about a minute later, it did do a bite.
Indeed, it did. Yes.
Bite time was early on that one.
Yeah, we're all set now. We've got sort of 3 rods out each now. I found another spot, maybe about 30 yards out from my last rod. It's got a little gully running through, quite clear, running through between weed beds. So
Got much bait on that one?
I've put a few catapults full of bait, but not a great deal, because as soon as I did that, the seagulls decided to come in and try and clear up what I was putting out. So
yeah, they do become a pain.
Got a bit out there, so happy with that one for the minute. It's fishing again.
Yeah, plus we've got the big bed of bait out in the middle, so we're getting a few blips and different things going on out there. So I think the fish is going to start moving in. Yeah,
it's quite encouraging, because we've seen out beyond maybe another 40-50 yards further out into open water past that bed of bait, we've seen a few.
Yeah, there's been a few sort of rolling about out there.
Yeah, and we've put it not too far out to allow them hopefully to come back in towards us.
Well, yeah, I think it's worked, because something's obviously come through, and then I had that one just sort of off the island to the left.
Yeah, exactly.
So I've got the one tucked down the corner just in front of that bush, and we've seen fish down there as well.
Yeah, it was quite active earlier on along that channel, wasn't it? With
yeah,
like sort of 3 or 4 fish through there.
Pretty happy with that one. I think basically now the rods are set, it's time to sit back and wait for bite time.
Well, you're joining me here at the quarry on day 2 of our expedition. It is hurricane force conditions. Literally, there's been a hurricane in the Atlantic somewhere. We've now just got the spin off from that. So really strong winds today. It's looking tough. I don't think the boys have had anything in the night. I've not been woken up by anything, but we'll go and have a chat to them, see what their plan of action is for today.
Well, last night didn't go as planned. Sort of the weather took a turn for the worse, and got some real strong winds coming in. It's sort of up all night to different bleeps, but it was just picking up weed as it's drifting through. There weren't really much happening. There's a few fish crashing, but just think let's just sit down and wait for it to happen.
Yeah, I pulled my right hand rod in, which was on the island. Heard fish last night to me right, and felt that was cutting off the fish coming in, so I pulled that one in this morning and changed the position and gone down the left hand side of the island long about 90 yards. There was some fish we heard out there last night, and you spotted one this morning early.
Yeah, there's a real good fish roll just at the back of our baited area.
Yeah.
But again, it had been in line with where you've just put your one long. So last night there's quite a few big fish crashing out there.
Yeah, there was. So we're close to them. We're still quite confident, quietly confident. So we're going to let things settle down for the day now, and
yeah, rods are all primed really.
Yeah,
all got bait on the spots. I think it's just hopefully wait for them to turn up and get their heads down.
Yeah, I mean, you had that pick up yesterday during daylight hours, so
yeah, it was sort of early afternoon when I had that one.
Yeah, so we're sort of heading towards sort of bite time now. So yeah, fingers crossed. Both confident, I think, aren't we?
Oh yeah, I'm always confident when you've got a rod in the water.
Exactly that.
Out of everything we've seen, there's sort of the fish do seem localised in this sort of middle section of the lake. So I think we're in with a good shot.
Yeah, islands are always a good sort of holding area, aren't they?
Yeah, especially these ones. They're well snaggy, so they've got enough sort of cover to hide out this wind.
Yeah, it's sort of weed fringe. There's sort of I've got the clear patches.
We've got everything going on for it really this swim. No, I think we're going to do alright. So it's not the easiest of waters. Lucky to have one of the originals yesterday.
Cracking fish, right?
Yeah.
Absolute cracker.
Well, now it's fairly quiet in the swim, there's not much really happening. I thought I'd take a quick opportunity to show you the rig that's done the damage. It's got your sinking rig tubing, keeps the last foot or so pinned down to the bottom and out of the ways. Got running 3-ounce lead. I've gone with a slightly bigger lead this time just to sort of make sure I'm hitting the spot in this wind. It's on a running rig, so there's no tension there. As soon as the fish picks it up, Gonna pick it up and away that runs. Get into the rig. It's a multi-rig. We've got 2 little bits of putty on there to keep it pinned down out of the way. Last one just helps the pop-up sit well exactly how I want it. It's only slightly off the bottom, it's not much in it at all. On the hook it's a size 6 choddy. I've just got a little bit of shrink tubing just to kink it over. I want it just to sit up like that, so when a fish sucks it in, that's going to nail the bottom lip hopefully. First of all, start with the quarter end traps, the semi-stiff, some 15 pound. All you want to do is take a pin small length off, create a loop as such. This loop will be how high your pop-up sits, so you can either have it as long as you want, as short as you want. It's a great thing about this rig is you can make it your own. So it's just overhand loop, pull that down to the height you want your pop-up to sit. So there's a loop there. And all I want to do is trim off the tag end. Next, I'm going to get a piece of shrink tubing. I've cut 2 pieces of this at the moment. Cut real small bit, and then another bit a little bit longer to create the kicker for the hook. You end up with 2 pieces there, short bit and slightly longer bit. First of all, you want to slide on the shortest part over your loop, like so. And you want to slide on a slightly longer bit. And you ain't going to worry about them for just a second. Then, what you want to do, I'm using a size 6 choddy. Just squeeze the end of the loop together. Slide that through the eye, going away from the point of the hook. And then you want to slide on tiny little rig ring. That goes over the loop like so. And then all you do is just get the loop, slide it over the shank of the hook so that it pulls down tight onto it. Little tip is if you pull it down tight so you get a tiny little kink, and all it does, it just helps create the D for the bait to slide up and down. Right, the next part, you want your rig tubing that you've already slid on, and slide that just over the eye of the hook. Still keeping the D there. Let's turn the kettle off. Like so. Before I slide the next piece on, what I'm going to do is just tease back a bit of the coating on the braid. And all that does, it just gives you your pivot point. And also if you tease it back after you've tied it, you get a rough little edge on it. And it helps the putty stick to it later on. So, with that done, come back to the second smaller piece of shrink tubing, and that just goes over the knot, just to keep it nice and tidy. Next, pull off the length you want. I use about 9 to 10 inches. Cut that. And all I do again, exactly the same as the other end, just tie a loop. Tie it. Trim the tag end. And then with the main piece of shrink tubing. All I do, slide it onto that loop, halfway down so the knot is inside the rig tubing. Again, keeps it all neat, and also when you shrink that with the steam of the kettle, it just helps keep a real straight bit that's going to kick it away from the lead. Next, get some tungsten putty. I use a fairly quite a big bit. That goes on the part that I've stripped back on the rough edges. Squeeze that on so it holds place. You can use a split shot. I'll just use this for easiness really, and that just gives you just a pivot point. It's going to be pinned down and that can spin left, right, back, so it don't matter which way the fish attacks it from. Next I want a smaller little piece of putty. What I'm going to do is put that halfway up the rig. Pinch that on again, like so. And all that does is just help keep the rig pinned down and out of the way of any harm. With the rig tied, all I'm going to do now is steam it, create my curves, create the stiffness, and then it'll be attaching the bait. As you can see, the tubing shrunk down. That's the angle I want it. We'll keep the rig nice and straight, run it through. Steam the last piece of tubing, run it back, and there you go. That's going to sit nice and straight, kick away from the lead, and that pop-up's going to be sitting just proud. With the rig tied, all I want to do now is attach the bait and get it out there fishing. You want a piece of bait floss. All I do is slide it through the rig ring, like so. Let's create an overhand knot. Place the bait so the rig ring's halfway round, and you're going to pull down tight so it covers half the bait. Pull that tight, create another overhand knot, again pull down tight, third time lucky, pull down tight, that's attached. All you want to do now, trim the tag ends. I'll have two slightly longer tag ends on this, and all I want to do is just blob it down with a lighter. And that bait's never coming off. Quick and easy. You can even have these pop-ups pre-tied with a rig ring on. All you do is slide the loop off the hook, slide the new bait on, and away you go, you're fishing in seconds.
Right, this is one of the rigs I'm using for a pop-up. It's a hinged D-rig, and I've got the components here, so I'll run through it with you, show you how I tie it up. First of all, I'm using a 20-pound braided hook length, which has got a coating on it, which I'll show you as I put the rig together, why I use that. First of all, I'm going to strip off, or take a length about 12 inches, 14 inches long. And when I cut this, I'm going to cut this at an angle rather than straight on like a lot of people do. And the reason for this being, it gives you a slight point on the hook length to actually push it through the eye of the hook when you're compiling the knot. The hook I'm using is a size 6 hook, quite a strong gauged wire. The conditions we've got out there and fishing amongst is quite weedy, so I want something that's going to be up to the job. So I've taken a look at, there's the hook and there's the start of the hook length. So to begin with, you push the hook length material through the eye of the hook from the underside like so, pull it through to form about a tag end about 3 inches long. If you hold that in place with your finger and forefinger and thumb, you can then take the longest part of the hook length, hold it near the eye of the hook, and you twist that round below the eye of the hook, and you make a series of turns to the desired length you require. I like to go along the shank of the hook till it finishes just past the level of the point of the hook, if you can see that. That should do that, and then I'll go back once back over the loops that I've created. Bit fiddly, hold that in place, and then this time you take the longest tag end and put it through the opposite way through the eye of the hook than when you started, like so, and then pull that all up through and tight, and that creates that part of the knot. But now what I want to do, I want to create a D on the back of the hook here, which is going to incorporate a stainless steel ring, which in turn I'm going to tie my bait to. That ring, when you've got it, you take the small tag end and you place the ring over that to begin with, like so. Turn the hook round, pull this long part of the hook length back down as tight as you can, and then to form the D, you take your smaller tag end, put it through the eye of the hook from the rear, and then if you watch, if I pull that slowly through, you can make that D as big or as small as you like. Now that is just about right for myself, and if I slowly turn it over, you'll see that ring now is free running on that D rig that's been created at the back of the hook. Now that is nearly complete. What you've got to do now is a sharp pair of braid scissors, is you cut that short tag end maybe 4 to 5 mil from the eye of the hook, and the reason being, there's a tricky little bit that comes up now where you're going to need a lighter, so you've got to be careful with this with your fingers. Obviously you don't want to burn yourself, and you want to hold the rest of what you've created out of the way. A bit windy, so it's a bit awkward, and you burn that tag end and just dab it, and that creates like a mushroom on the end, and you just tease that D back so that mushroom beds to the eye of the hook, and that will stop that from pulling through on the pressure of the cast when the bait's tied to that ring. And that is the finished article. There's one more thing to do once I've tied the bait onto there, and that is I will go back about 1 inch away from the eye of the hook, and I will strip part of the coating off to create a hinge, which will give you sort of 360 degrees movement once that's been removed. This coating's quite easy to remove with your fingernails if you've got long enough nails. Just tease it back, and that exposes the braid there, and that will give you your pivotal movement for your hook bait when it's attached. For that I use just basic dental floss, what you do is you double over your length of dental floss to create a loop, which is where your baiting needle gets put through, hooked onto that. Slide your boilie on, and then you need a boilie stop, which is then put through that loop that you've created and pulled through the bait. Tease that down, which locks your bait in place. You take one of the tag ends of the dental floss, and that then goes through, not through the D that you've created, but actually through the ring that's on the D. Like so. Now you can tie this different ways depending on what knots you use yourself, but my personal way of doing it is I'll do a single underhanded knot just to secure it in place. Then the next time I do that, I'll go through once, twice through there, lock that back down into place, and then this time I'll reverse that and go through the other way, but still through twice, and then lock that like so. Take your scissors and trim that down, those as close to the boilie as you can get, like so. And what you can also do with to secure that, to stop it coming undone, is obviously be careful again. Take your lighter, and you can, a bit windy so it's a bit awkward, and you can melt those tag ends down, and again it mushrooms the ends, so there's no chance of that actually coming undone on the cast or while that's in use. And then you can see now how easy that and free moving that boilie or that pop-up actually moves around that D that you've created. And that turns and takes hold every time. So it's all you need to do. Now obviously we use, if it was a bottom bait, I'd leave that rig as is. Obviously I've created the hinge, but because it's a pop-up you need some form of counterbalance to actually keep the pop-up fixed to the lake bed once it's out there fishing. I prefer to use split shot for this. When fixing the split shot onto the hook length, some people sort of tend to put it on the hinge, but that is not ideal, I feel. What I do is I take the split shot and I'll place it on the piece of outer coating that's back from the hinge, which what that will do, it will stop any of the rest of the coating moving back over and masking that hinged piece that you ideally want exposed all the time. And then that is now the finished rig, and should and will sit like that in situ on the lake bed, ready for any fish coming into the swim to pick up. This is something I thought might be worth showing you. It's a tip that I got off a good friend of mine, and what it is, you can use tungsten tubing, which is quite heavy and will lay on the bottom, but I use straightforward black silicone tubing, but to create the something on there to force that to sink out the way of the hook length, I'll use something, non-toxic lead tape, and it comes in like a roll. I've got a small piece of it there, like a roll, and it's got a sticky side to it, so you cut your section off, remove the tape, and then slowly and carefully, not too tight because you don't want to squash the tubing in any way, is just tease it round and start rolling it round your tubing like so, and you know you need about an inch of it. It's quite heavy, and what I do is I put a piece on the top, obviously, so that lays down away from where the rig is on the bottom, and I put the other piece about 1/3 of the way up from where my swivel is. And what that creates, I've got it semi-fixed at the moment with the rubber bead pushed over the eye of the swivel, and then when you get a pickup, if you see how that lead moves for 4 inches, and then it hits that first bit of lead and creates a shock effect, which in turn should set the hook before you get your initial run. And the other way to do it, you can have it so it's running as well, so you remove that bead off the eye of the hook, make sure the tubing's pushed in it, like so, and then that now you still get that movement with the lead, but you'll also get the movement of the whole piece of tubing will move up and down the line as well. In case of a breakage or anything like that, then it's a safe rig, it'll all come off. Something else I use as well, not all the time, but I am using it here because the quarry is quite a weedy water, I was saying earlier a couple of times. So what I do before I cast is I'll use a piece of dissolvable pop-up foam. Now there's different ways you can attach this. You can sort of cut it in half, put a small piece and just hook it on the hook. But because I'm using this pop-up and I've got a gap between the split shot and my hook, what I do is I take a pair of scissors and I will cut down, not right the way through, but I'll cut down through the pop-up foam lengthways, and then I'll try not to squash it too much, tease it open, and then what I'll do is I'll put a little bit of saliva on one side, and then I'll slide that so over the hook between the split shot and my bait, and then I'll fold that over, just hold it gently until it sticks back together, and then because in flight the lead's travelling first and your hook length's following, I'll squeeze this end down here by the split shot to make it a little bit more aerodynamic for the cast, and then that way you can see how the hook's sticking out. You can just tease that round and put the hook point against the foam like that, so once that's out in the lake cast out, nothing's going to get on that hook, and it safeguards perfect presentation out on the lake bed when it's out there.
Well, I hope you guys have enjoyed the first episode of Bite Time. We've got plenty more venues planned, hopefully some more totally awesome fishing.